Hello, everybody. Can I ask the students at the back to come and fill the seats up at the front so we can all be a little bit more together? That's it. Because we need participation from you guys. Brilliant. Good morning to you all. First of all, I want to extend my thanks to the organisers, Dr. George, Father George, Dr. Nushad, Dr. Cherian, and of course my great friend Satish Kumar, who is the reason why I'm here. My name is James D. Graham, and I am first an artist and second an activist. And I've been involved in my art career started in 2000. My activism has started in the last 10 years. And slowly but surely, my art and my activism have fused together. And that is the combination of my art and activism. You will see at the end is seen in the product of a small garden in Italy. So I'm going to start off by talking from an activist point of view, and confronting one of the most important themes that we have within this conference, which is the theme of energy. And then from that, I will go into a presentation of my work, and finally, you will see some pictures of my garden. So, without more ado, I will start with my activist presentation, which is basically about energy. It's entitled "Energy Addiction: Time for Rehab," and was actually published in The Ecologist in December 2024. The Ecologist is one of the most important ecological magazines that we have in Europe, in the UK in particular. At what cost energy? At what cost hot food? At what cost clothes, house, life? Cost to who? Outside of the circular economy, everything costs. And the buck stops with the planet, nature, Gaia, our home, where we come from, where we live, and where we shall die. How should we preserve our home, and how should we behave? This is, after all, the age of the Anthropocene. Are we free? No. We are highly addicted to something that we currently cannot live without, and that is electricity. We saw it yesterday when the whole system shut down. No screen, no sound, no lights, no air conditioning. The need to decarbonize is more than critical. In the last 40 years, global consumption of oil, gas, and coal has doubled, exacting immeasurable damage to Gaia. The need to stop biodiversity loss is life-threatening to humans as well as the planet. Since 1984, global arable land has reduced by 30%, as the human population has increased by 170%. Is it possible to maintain life as we know it? Without appearing alarmist, the answer is almost definitely not. Stopping climate change and preventing mass biodiversity loss will not happen unless humans are prepared to radically change their lifestyle and use what our planet can provide. Because there are not enough resources for the infinite GDP economic growth model to continue. But what democratically elected government dares to tell their electorate that they must accept to be, in inverted commas, worse off than their parents? Kate Raworth, an economist that I profoundly admire and author of the book Donut Economics, postulates that our value system must be fundamentally changed to prioritize what she calls thriving and well-being for all within an economy which is by design distributive rather than divisive. She advocates an economic model that balances essential human needs with planetary boundaries. And I quote, "We need to thrive between the social foundation and the ecological ceiling, living in balance with the rest of the living world." Living in a digital age, large parts of the world's population are dependent on the blood of electrical energy. With the exponential growth of AI, robotics, and data storage systems, global electrical demand in 2026 is set to rise by 3.7% annually to its highest level ever, and by 2030, by 20%. Energy has become one of the most debated, contentious, and politicized global issues of our era. But it must remain just one consideration alongside other aspects of our unique ecosystem. Energy is not the only criteria on which our lives depend. Our planet seems almost not to be suited for the ways in which many of us now wish to live. And let's not forget that it is those living outside the cities who are having to not only witness the full spectrum of climate change and biodiversity loss firsthand, but are also expected to embrace the industrialization of environmentalism, using up fertile landscape, creating a negative feedback loop for biodiversity and well-being. We must remember that we have evolved within a physical body and mind coexisting in harmony with other species. Our fundamental priorities have always been simple: feeding ourselves, procreation, shelter, health, well-being, coexistence, and above all, love. It has been, and continues to be, a gargantuan battle to wean ourselves off fossil fuels, and this battle must not cease. There is now a sizable renewables industry, but where I live in Italy, it has been brutally hijacked by profiteers masquerading as environmentalists. This is classic speculative business as usual tactics. Just the latest chapter in the consumeristic, capitalistic playbook that has now brought us to the brink. The green transition is repeating the exact same tactics that the fossil fuel companies were using, except with the moral authority to save the planet. Yesterday, I was an oil baron. Today, I'm a wind turbine king. This must change. It's not okay to use renewable energy as an excuse to plaster our arable land with huge solar farms, or carpet bomb the countryside with thousands of giant wind turbines, disfiguring ancient landscapes and endangering the health of local populations. Our land is our only capital and our natural environment. It gives us well-being from its space, silence, abundance, and beauty. Allowing its value to be controlled by the marketplace for energy is a recipe for disaster. In Europe, There have been differing models for resolving the energy problem. Germany is the biggest industrial powerhouse in Europe. It is intrinsically averse to nuclear and has heavily invested in renewables, particularly wind turbines, of which there are now 30,000 sprawled across the countryside. These, like solar, are intermittent energy sources. When the wind doesn't blow or the sun doesn't shine, Germany uses a backup system of coal-fired, lignite, or gas power stations, which must always be on standby. Because Germany, like all industrialized countries, needs electricity 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, all year round. This has severely impacted their ability to reduce net carbon emissions. A radical change in the economic, financial, and social systems is even more essential and urgent. I'm observing the green transition from the countryside of Tuscia, central Italy, home to the ancient Etruscan people and visited by millions of people every year. It is a beautiful place to live. There are lakes, ancient caves, vines, mushrooms, mozzarella, and unsurprisingly, a large proportion of the population make their livelihood from food and tourism. In the 12 years that I have lived here, we have seen temperatures rise 3 to 4 degrees in the summer and experience unpredictable, out-of-season weather events throughout the year that confuse the flora and fauna. Floods, droughts, fires, and ruined crops are now common here, as everywhere. I don't consider myself a Luddite. I've been aware of the potential consequences of climate change for a long time. I moved to Italy to be utility independent. I bought a house with its own water well on a hill and sufficient land to grow food. I installed solar panels with battery storage at my house to become 70 to 80% electrically autonomous. I cook, heat, and drive with electricity. The household is largely carbon-free, but not silicon, lithium, or copper-free. Any material used to harvest green energy must come from somewhere. I aspire to being carbon neutral, but it's extremely difficult to reconcile being carbon neutral with a modern lifestyle. Italy is a highly conservative society. It holds the most UNESCO sites, 58. There is a lot to conserve. It is also steeped in bureaucratic glue and been sluggish to mitigate and activate any plan for a green transition. Post-COVID in 2021, a huge sum of 200 million euros in grants and loans was made available to Italy by the EU for this very purpose. But it must be spent by next year. The government has not produced a coherent strategy or comprehensive legal framework as to how and where renewable plants can be installed. The country is in desperate need of some energy sovereignty with very little constant reserves of its own, importing, for example, 93 to 90%, 97% of its oil and gas. The only other constant carbon-free source of energy is nuclear. But even this source has been problematic. Italians have rejected a return to nuclear in 2 referendums, 1987 and 2011, preferring instead to import nuclear-generated electricity from France and Switzerland. However, there has been a lot of discussion in Italy about a new generation of nuclear power stations known as SMRs, small modular reactors, which are smaller, quicker, safer, and cheaper to build. Giorgia Meloni's government is supportive, but commentators are doubtful whether they will obtain majority support in Parliament. We shall see. Without any government guidance to follow, the situation has become chaotic. An army of speculators has arrived from all over Europe, rubbing their hands in glee because every large wind solar project brings a 30% risk-free return on investment over 20 years. Manna to any bored shareholders. These opportunists are now confronting those wishing to protect Italian food sovereignty, cultural assets, and tourism. Even though Italy is a country of sun, not wind, there are plans to erect 450 wind turbines, 200 meters high each, within an area of just over 50 kilometers between northwestern Umbria and Tuscany and the Mediterranean Sea. The idealized Italian landscape of Da Vinci, Corot, and Poussin is in danger of changing from arable farmland to industrial wasteland. Crucially, this is an area without sufficient wind to generate enough electricity to justify the vast financial and resource investment. The wind companies do not need to worry because they will receive fixed, higher than market rate feed-in tariffs from the government over 20 years, regardless of the electricity generated. A more sensible option, but not ideal, would be to utilize the 8,000 kilometers of coastline around Italy and place the turbines offshore. Sardinia, one of the most beautiful and culturally important areas of Italy, has been badly afflicted onshore and offshore with a huge quantity of renewable energy that far outstrips its potential consumption. The regional government has passed a decree imposing a moratorium on any further renewable projects in their areas until the government produces a clear plan for distributing projects equally and intelligently throughout Italy. With no forward planning, resistance from regional governments, potential unrest through the country, and pressure from Brussels to spend 200 billion euros by 2026, the Italian government finds itself caught between the devil and the deep blue sea. This type of situation is happening in many parts of the globe and will only start to be resolved when we all face up to the fact that the world is unable to continue as it was before. Our system and lifestyles must change radically. But how? The first step is that local communities become responsible for the production, storage, and distribution of renewable energy. Every area in the world has meteorological and geographical defining characteristics that will dictate a renewable energy mix in that area. And this must be balanced with due respect to the landscape and habitats around it. For example, in Italy, because it is a country of sun, energy production will come from solar panels placed on existing structures and already industrialized sites in the community, such as car parks, factories, warehouses, motorway cuttings, railway cuttings, office buildings, condominiums, and private houses. A seminal article by researchers Massimo Maser and David Moser was published April 2021 in the journal Nature. This set out a plan for powering Italy on the basis that there are already sufficient structures for solar panels to meet the EU renewable targets for 2030, with a 30% surplus. Existing solar farms must be upgraded from the existing 15-year-old technology to the latest generations of panels. No more arable fertile land need be used. One of the keys to implement this plan is the creation of local energy communities. or community-based energy projects, whereby local citizens and businesses invest collectively in renewable projects for production, storage, and distribution of electricity. Governments are starting to provide subsidies for installation costs, in Italy up to 40%, and the community can also earn credits for extra clean electricity which goes into the central grid. Apart from the financial model, this system has many other advantages. It ensures that interests valuable to the local community are protected, like arable land and cultural assets. Energy begins to become a democratic benefit, cutting transport costs for a more efficient and reliable power supply, reducing bills and generating local jobs. Locally generated solar power feeds electricity into a local smart hub to either be used immediately or stored in battery systems maintained by the community, which will then provide for nighttime use. Any surplus of supply will be sold back into the grid for redistribution. In the case of undersupply, a fixed constant source generated by nuclear or other non-carbon emitting source will need to be used as backup. The emphasis must be on energy, responsibility, and democratization, and not on profit and corporate ownership. For that, energy saving is crucial. Lifestyles will have to change, because no longer will we be able to live in an energy infinite world. The fossil fuel era must end. This model will not work for transport, which is transient and not community-based. Once again, a system of constant energy that can be increased or decreased in real time will have to be implemented. And carbon-free nuclear is the only option currently available. No doubt, other technologies will come online in the future. The price of electric vehicles is currently prohibited for millions of people, which indicates that in the event of a ban on fossil fuel transport, many people will be obliged to exist with public transport or not travel at all. This has the advantage of strengthening local communities, but can the genie be put back in the bottle? Is it possible for our world to return to an era of limited or no travel? How will goods circulate? Throughout history, humans have been incredibly resourceful, but it seems that we have now reached a point where civilization and technological advance are a hindrance to our freedom rather than an enhancement. Apart from the inequality, we are imprisoned within our smartphones, living in a virtual world which cannot exist without electricity, losing our freedom to become slaves of energy. We must balance our intelligence, our creativity, and our labor with the resources available on planet Earth. Otherwise, our energy addiction will destroy us. Thank you. So now I'm going to go to the artistic aspect of my work and show you some examples of my work. So incidentally, this picture here is a picture of a field which is destined to be covered with solar panels, unfortunately. Two farmers, because agriculture is actually in a very bad state in Italy at the moment, have got together to sell half of their lands, 70 hectares, that's something like 200 acres, all around this area to be covered with what they call agrivoltaic panels. This is basically a loophole in the law where instead of putting solar panels on the ground, they put the solar panels high, and they say, oh, but we can grow crops underneath. Oh, we can graze our free sheep underneath. Well, everybody knows that the ground or a crop needs sunlight and rain in order to flourish. If you have a solar panel over it, you get either light or moisture or rain. So anyway, yeah, this is same field. This is actually a mock-up. They want to put a wind turbine. This is 200. This is also to scale. This is 200 meters high. That's 2/3 the height of the Eiffel Tower, right in the middle of this fertile arable land. I mean, how incongruous is that? So, coming to my work, I've been inspired over the years that I've been an artist, initially by the idea of an interface between physical and metaphysical space. So, actually identifying what it is that we are inspired by and what it is which we can attain from an artwork through what they call intuition, which is knowledge which is given to you, not knowledge that you acquire. It's the source of inspiration, if you like. And I've been fascinating with this idea and tried to develop artworks which encompass that idea. The first artwork which I made is a 360-degree film called Igu, made on the landscape of an active volcano in Italy called Stromboli. And here you can see this incredible island, which at the top there is the crater. In fact, the island is 900 meters high, and below it, below sea level, you've got twice the height of the island. So it's very, very deep. And that volcano is, as you can see, almost completely circular. And so and it's 2 kilometers across. So when you go to the top of the volcano, you can actually see the sea, and you can experience all the 4 elements equally. And when I first went to Stromboli in 2001, I was so excited because I'd seen it from another island. I felt madly in love with it. And I walked to the top with a guide, and I spent the night out there. And during the night, there was a thunderstorm. There was lightning, and the stars were incredible. And suddenly I felt like a minute piece of this vast cosmos. And when I got back to the UK, I thought long and hard about how I could express this feeling within my work. And I decided that I should make a 360-degree film. My work has always been more concentrated on analog. So, for instance, this is actually a Polaroid picture taken on a Polaroid camera, analog camera. And for the film, the 360-degree film, I use Super 8 film. So, just to show you the technical aspect of it. So I collected 12 Super 8 cameras, which I put in a ring like that, and so that each camera shoots 30 degrees, so they're all looking outwards, and they're all controlled by one battery. It makes a great sound, actually, when you put all the cameras together. Very difficult to set up. The reason why I use Super 8 is because Super 8 gives you, first of all, film is tangible. It's something you can feel. It's not a pixel. It's not an electronic signal. Film is tangible, and the contrast that you get filmically gives you these incredible blacks. And also, Super 8 has the advantage of being able to shoot slow motion, time lapse, so you've got really full control over the image. I'm going to show you an example. First of all, I'm going to show you how it's projected. So the film is projected in a 10 meter wide tent. So you walk inside, and you've got above you, you've got 12 projectors configured in the same way that the cameras are. And those projectors are looking outward. So all around you, you've got an image. And the thing that people do when they first go in there is they want to see everything at the same time, which is impossible, obviously. So finally they relax and they accept the fact that, like in reality, I can't see behind me as well as in front of me at the same time. So they relax and they watch the film from one side, they watch the film from the other side. And the beauty of the film is that all the shots, each shot represents one of the elements. And I'm juxtaposing the elements one against the other. So fire on one side, water on the other, air on one side, earth on the other. And the film is a combination between true 360 shots, but also doing maybe 6 cameras or 3 cameras and mixing them together. So you've got this myriad of imagery going on, and the effect is that you sit in that space and you feel one with the earth. It's so beautiful. I showed it in Luxembourg, in the Museum of Modern Art in Mudan, in Luxembourg. We had 150,000 people come and see it. You know, it was like, and people were just sort of like, suddenly they had contact with nature. I'd love to show it in India, maybe in the university one day, or at the biennial. So I show you a little extract of it, because you can see it on my website, but obviously what we're doing is we're watching a 3D simulation of the film. So imagining that you're inside the space, you're seeing the images, but obviously we're not in a 360-degree space. So can I turn the lights off for a moment? Thanks. Here, and sound. So this is the 360-degree shot, taken all the way around at the volcano at 5:30 in the morning, and you can see it just exploded the crater. And this is the sound of the actual volcano when you hear this. So Stormbody explodes about once every 10-15 minutes, and it's a very unique place because you can go up and you can be 150 meters from the crater, and so you're looking down, so you see all the activity. I'm going to pause it there because it's 15 minutes long. So if you want to watch it on my website, or even better, we need to be able to set it up. So that was. Oh, I need to say also that I worked very closely with a very important sound artist called Akio Suzuki, who makes his own instruments, and in particular, he's made this instrument called an analapos, which is actually an alien harp. An alien harp is an instrument which plays using the wind. So you can see here, he's actually holding basically he's got two cans connected by a spring, and the wind blows through the spring and makes a sound, makes this kind of whistling sound. Very interesting guy. And I was very lucky. He agreed to come to the island, and we recorded him doing performances in different parts of the island. Here you've got shots of after the explosions, you get landslides, and these are rocks tumbling down from the crater 1 kilometer. They gather pace and then they go into the sea. I mean, it's completely unique. It's another shot of an explosion, an outtake from the film. So that is Edu. I want to move on now to another project which I did, the idea of which, suspended animation, the idea of this project was actually to try to bring people's attention to the living nature of material, in particular stones that we consider to be normally a dead thing, but in fact molecularly are not dissimilar from ourselves or from other forms of life on Earth. And so the idea of something being dead, for me, is obsolete. And I did it by gathering stones on a beach in Sussex, in the UK. And each of these stones are made of flint. And these stones fall to the beach from the cliffs, and because of the sea, they erode, and each stone has a hole in them. And that connected really, really nicely with the idea that the ancient peoples used to use big stones with holes in them, which they considered to have healing properties. So you'd have them, they would pull sick children through the hole in order to try to heal them from ailments. And so I constructed these sculptures, if you like, using, as you can see, very, very fine wire. And the effect of the fact that there's so little friction on the wire, because it's like 0.1. Sorry?
So how much time you need to finish?
At least another 10 minutes.
So now this time will be 2 minutes.
I'm really sorry.
Yeah, how much time? We have another presentation.
No. Yeah. Anyway, I'll continue.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
So basically, when you look at this sculpture, and we can see it in movement here, you get this. That's actually exaggerated, but when you look at the sculpture, because of the air around it, you actually the stones move really, really imperceptibly. So you get this feeling that your subconscious is telling you that something's going on, but you're not quite sure what it is. The next project, which I want to show you, is this project called Sacred Space Illuminated by the Perfect Insect. And again, this is to do with a sense of an energy emanated from nature. Because I was in Sri Lanka, and I was incredibly inspired by seeing the groups of fireflies which congregate together in the jungle. And you see this really, really deep concentration of lights going on at night. And I couldn't film it, it's impossible to film. So I thought, okay, I'm going to make a drawing. So I made some drawings using a white pen, always using the same line, just to try to capture the sense of energy within this natural phenomena. The drawings are quite big, like 2 meters by 1. And you get different forms. This was actually shown in Gloucester Cathedral in London. So I quite like the idea of the natural world coming into context with the spiritual world, which of course is one of the main themes that we are talking about here, spiritual ecology. Another project which is more of an activist project than a spiritual ecology project is called Desecration. And note that the Desecration is a project which is to do with the level of environmental degradation and conflict in the Middle East. And I chose the Middle East because it's a place where civilization originated. And I've always been obsessed with maps ever since I was a young boy. So I decided to do a series of maps because I was on Google Earth one day and I was looking at areas where they produce oil in Saudi Arabia, and I saw just like how disgusting the land had become, completely desecrated. So I decided to make maps of places where there'd been huge conflicts. So this is a map of actually Aleppo, done in 2017 at the height of the war in the Middle East. And the map actually is a true representation of the roadmap of Aleppo. But you can see that what I've done is I've used this paper cutting technique, and the effect is it's like it creates a sense of it's like a quarry, so it's kind of extraction. And obviously the red has to do with the violence there. The other medium is, so I've got watercolor, there's no black pens, just masking fluid used, and this cutting technique, which is kind of Japanese in nature, I guess. Similarly, I exhibited this work, a really great opportunity for an exhibition in Rome at the Biblioteca Vaticana, who have an incredible collection of old maps from the 9th century and old Bibles. And they very kindly allowed me to exhibit my work next to examples of maps and Bibles. And in fact, this map here is a map of Mosul, another town in northern Iraq, which is very heavily bombed, taken over by ISIS. And you probably heard of the Leaning Tower which was destroyed in Iraq, which was called the Al-Nuri Mosque. And a lot of people don't know that underneath that tower was the tomb of Jonah and the whale. And in fact, here I exhibited the map next door to an ancient Bible, opened, of course, on the book of Jonah. This is a map of Sana'a in Yemen for our dear Yemeni friend that I met earlier, Sama, and again using similar techniques. This is slightly more abstract. It's called the archaeological remains of the Anthropocene, so same technique, but I've incorporated plastic, because at the time I was working a lot against single-use plastic. And I found this incredible pen, which is used plastic from the tip, melted plastic. So I was able to shape it into, on the left, you can see it looks like a hornito. A hornito is on a volcano is like a pile of lava that kind of spirals high. So the idea was asking the viewer, okay, what are we going to see, or what are our future generations going to see of our world in 2,000 years' time? And the answer being, well, if they dig down, they're going to find mountains of plastic. Here we go. I couldn't not do this talk without a reference also to one of the last maps I did of Gaza. Clearly, you can see the references to this terrible event which is unfolding towards our eyes. This is a very interesting map. It's called Under the Skin, and it's actually based on the refugee camp in northern Syria called Al-Hol. Al-Hol was the place where all the ISIS women and children were sent to after the capture of Raqqa, which was the ISIS capital. And Al-Hol held 70,000 people in this place, and it looks like hell from if you go on Google Earth, and it's completely barren, dusty, incredibly horrible place. And I've done this map of it. Then go a little bit even more abstract, and I decided to start to incorporate honeycomb into my maps. With honeycomb produced by our bees at home, because honeycomb has a purity to it, and I wanted to juxtapose it with the plastic. So here you've got, this one's called Melted Earth, and there's a little video to show you a little bit closer how it is. You can see there's bits of plastic, so it's almost like the honeycomb is imprisoned by the plastic. It's quite interesting to see all the detailed work. This map measures about 1.5 meters by 1 meter. Last project, Tears of Neptune. So this project is inspired by the fact that the River Po, which is 650 kilometers long, is the longest river in Italy, and it's been suffering terrible floods and terrible droughts. So I decided to use a technique that I didn't know, which is fresco. I never made a fresco before. And fresco, to make a fresco, you need to create plaster. And the plaster is made from lime and river sand. So I decided that there was an ideal opportunity to do a project on the River Po. So I used went up to the River Po, collected river sand, and started to make frescoes. But In the frescoes, I'm not a painter. I mean, I can manage abstract painting, but I'm not a figurative painter. But I needed a figurative element in this. So I thought that again, seeding to the Italian tradition of sculpture, I cast gesso hands in various gestures to indicate the kinds of feelings that I wanted to convey within the work. So here you've got a series of children's hands who are, it seems like they've got their hands coming through a waterfall, and they are possibly struggling, possibly drowning. That's the kind of feeling that I was thinking of. Here again, another representation of fresco using lots and lots of very, very big gestures to get energy. Very important project, Pilgrim's Way. This is a project which I did for the event that Satish came to at my house. I wanted to use dried alliums from my garden. The allium apparently symbolizes unity, humility, and preservation. So I made an installation, not dissimilar from suspended animation that you saw earlier, in order to highlight the idea of the pilgrim and not the tourist, which is the subject of Satish's talk. And the idea is that in the installation is that the two parts are like the way, so you're going from one window through into the other, and then meeting in the middle. And I was very pleased with this, but clearly alliums are transient, so I wasn't able to preserve it. But the talk was wonderful. This project, Survivor, leads us into the pictures of my garden, which I'm just about to show you. A fallen tree, 150 years old, oak tree, 13 meters long. I decided to, once it fell in storms, and I decided to, I had the idea of putting it upside down, and I got a commission from central London to put it in front of one of the biggest skyscrapers in central London. Unfortunately, we couldn't transport it there. So the tree remains on my property. There you go. That's an example of an artwork that didn't happen. Maybe it's better the tree was there. So finally, and I know you're wanting me to finish, but finally, I'm going to show you pictures of my garden, because the garden is the ultimate artwork for me. It's where all my activism and my art has led me to. The idea of curating a living, breathing artwork and getting to know plants. We were blessed to have a property where we have two 400-year-old oak trees that have grown together. These two oak trees, 1 year, one does acorns, 1 year, another does acorns. It's that they're extraordinary. One of them has an extraordinary phenomenon called inosculation. The branches separate and then fuse back together, and the sun, you can see, is coming through a hole in the tree. We feel it's like a portal, somewhere that you can go through and attain knowledge, wisdom. Through the trees, you see these beautiful cypress trees, 12 of them. We call them the 12 apostles. They were there actually when we arrived. The previous owner planted them. They're a very, very important feature of the property and a focus, because this garden is a small biosphere. It's like a sanctuary. It's a beacon of resistance to all the monoculture and speculation of renewable energy that we have around us, because there's a lot of that. A wildflower meadow field, poppies, cornflower, and chamomile. We sow it once every 2 years, and it just provides this incredible expanse of colour. Coming up in May through June, and then we cut it in August. A walkway going from one part of the garden to the other. There are actually 5 different spaces, 5 different gardens. Each garden is planted differently, and they're all connected with certain plants. This is one part of the garden, the new garden we call it. And as you can see, it's got this incredibly wild aspect to it. It's almost like walking in a magic place. Roses on the left, alliums in the middle, and then in the back you've got the wildflower meadow and the great oaks that I showed you earlier in the background. So it's about layers of colour, structure, and ultimately beauty. Okay, just a few more pictures before I go. This is an example of one of our irises, just to show you the close-up of the kind of beauty that you can get. A magnolia, beautiful magnolia. Cladastris pinnaticea. A poppy, a black poppy, very, very interesting plant. A garden wouldn't be complete without insects, birds, wildlife. So this is actually I can't remember the name of the spider, underneath a peony. And of course, we have events where we have spider webs coming down 2 or 3 times a year. In the morning, you get millions of them. A wasp spider. Extraordinary things that you see in the garden. Magnolias in the spring. This is an Etruscan necropolis, which we have on the property with 9 tombs. The Etruscans were an ancient people, pre-Roman, very spiritual, extremely joyful, and built their necropolis in very special places. So it is a special place. I don't know if do I have time to go? Sorry? Okay. All right, well, sadly, I have to wind up. Very good. There's more. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you very much, Dr. Khan, for your excellent presentation on your artwork. And if you lack of time, you can discuss the matters later during the tea break. So I'm going to the next presentation. Before that, I will invite you to have a receipt. Yeah.